Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how grateful I am to be up here. And I have some notes just to make sure I stay a little bit focused so we can get out of here in a reasonable time. But I have to start by thanking my partner who heard me say, and it was also mentioned by somebody else that I said, Terry, said, I kept saying, I don't want a church of my own. And then as this became apparent that Spirit was calling in this direction, she was able to turn with me in support of this process. So I'm just so grateful to her. And it was actually 40 years ago this year in 1974 when I first felt the call to ministry and when I decided I was someday going to be a minister. And I was told at that time that women are not ministers. And then I was like, well, this one's going to be. And as I went through ministerial school, I was told there are no female theologians. And so I had to dig them up and find them on my own. And it's amazing to me that one of the people that's in our roots, Emma Curtis Hopkins, I would consider her a female theologian. So I had to discover all of this on my own. And then I also want to thank Reverend Suzette for being here today and being able to do this for us. And she talked about the webs that we weave. Reverend Sandy was actually on my panel when I was passed as a practitioner. Do you remember that? And one of the questions she asked me is, are you going to be out to your congregation or to the people when you serve them? And when I went to Holmes Institute, I was scared because she made me a little nervous about this process and, what did I have to do? And as we did a ritual, Reverend Suzette, before, she wasn't Reverend yet, she was also a student, she came up to me and looked me in the eye and said, welcome, sister. And my heart just went calm. And I was able to realize that in this wonderful teaching, that doesn't matter. It's all about who we are and the spirit that we are. So I was so grateful to her and her ability to help me feel comfortable in that beginning process. And to Reverend Sandy for making me think about it. How do we do it? Actually, in this center, when I came to visit from Albuquerque, Reverend Sandy mentioned the word gay from up here, and I thought I'd fall out of my chair. So I was grateful to the fact that she was able to take that stand in a way and support people. I know you've all heard. She supported so many people with AIDS back in the day when we were losing a lot of our brothers and some sisters. So thank you, Sandy, for that. And I want to thank Reverend Sam. Reverend Sam and Reverend Terry have been my mentors since I moved here. And Reverend Sam has taught me the importance of people and prayer first. Because no matter what we're doing, if we're in the middle of some project or we're working on something, if somebody new walks in the room, he gets up and goes over and gives them a hug. You all know that, right? And I learned from that because I tend to be real focused and I'm in my work mode and I had to remember, people first. And everything that happens, I take into prayer first instead of just trying to fix it right away on my own. So that was a major example that I got from Reverend Sam. Now, Reverend Terry has been there by my side as my prayer partner early on and has been a friend, like a sister, and also like a surrogate mother as my mother was passing. It was so wonderful to have her there for me. And Reverend Bonnie Allen Rice was actually my mother's minister as she was passing. She was there for her from hospice, and she did for my mother what I could not do. I could not be her minister and her daughter at the same time. And so I was so grateful, and I learned from her the types of things that I needed to do for somebody else in their moment of passing and how to prepare. So I thank you, Reverend Bonnie Allen Rice, for that. And then Reverend Delane was there to pick me up when I needed to figure out my new calling and my new direction. And together we came up with the need that is present in this community for people with post-traumatic stress disorder to have a way to heal, not only spiritually, but also on emotional levels. And we started the Organ Mountain Institute for Spiritual Growth together, and that's still a special focus ministry that I know is in the mind of God and will someday be realized. So that I just thank you, Reverend Delane, for being here today and for being a part of my life in that way. Now, I could go on here all night thanking everybody. I could start with my parents, and I do want to say that I have parents who don't necessarily, my father is still alive, believe what I believe, but they believe in me, and they always have, and they've always been willing to support me no matter what I choose to do. And I got a beautiful email from my father congratulating me on this event and promising, so we will hold him to it, that he will come to church next time he comes to Las Cruces. So I am very grateful to him. And I am grateful to Cheryl, who has been my right hand here as a practitioner, and all of you who have been my students should know that if it wasn't for Cheryl, we would have started classes without workbooks several times. She helps me remember what the next step is, where I should be, and what we need to do. So I'm so grateful to her for that process, not to mention the prayer work and the friendship and all of the rest of that. And to Lisa, our board president, she keeps all these cats herded, all of us. She keeps us on task in board meetings, and she helped to team up with Jennifer. I know Jennifer's out there somewhere from Wellspring, the Wellspring board president. They brought the team together from both centers to help make tonight happen the way it is. Lisa very politely asked if I would step back and just let them handle it. So that's what I've done. So this is their creation, aside from the words that home office had Suzette say. So I just give thanks to Lisa and then the entire board. I don't know if you can tell, but I sat in on a number of boards over the years in a number of different cities, and I feel so blessed to get along with the board, to love every single one of them. We have fun, we laugh, and we still do business, and it is such a blessing, because I know that that doesn't necessarily have to be the way it is, but it is here the way it is, and I am so grateful to all of you on the board. And Skip, I know you're over there. Thank you so much. So I also want, and I'm not going to call each name, but I can see faces out there, and I know every single one of you has been a part of my life in some way, no matter which center you are at right now. I love all of you, and I could sit here tonight and go through each one of you and say what I'm grateful for. So just take a moment, please, and feel my gratitude, and just say you're welcome in your head, and we'll be complete with the thank yous. Thank you so much to every single one of you. So as I've looked at my ministry over the last few years, one of the things I've realized that has come forward as the main focus is not what I say on Sunday, because I only speak one Sunday a month, and that's only 20 minutes. And it's not necessarily the teaching of the classes itself, but what I've found is the main focus for me is how we apply these principles that we teach in our everyday lives, how we apply the principles when we're on the board and we talk to each other, how we apply the principles between us as we work together on projects like decorating the Christmas tree or hanging things in certain places. The way the social hall looks has probably changed 4 or 5 times since I've been here. And it's always fun to watch the process as everybody interacts, figures it out together, and it's how we do that work together, how we apply those principles in the ways that we are able to connect, communicate, and forgive, and continue to connect and apply those principles and move on. That is just, to me, the ultimate. All of this, the building, the decorations, what we do in the classes, our Sunday service, that's just the playground for us to practice in. That's where we get to it's the props for the play, so to speak. It's what we have created in order to apply what it is that we learn here through these principles. The love that I've heard everybody talk about tonight. One of the things that we sing in our closing song here at the center includes the words, "Is it kind and true and needed?" And that's something that I know a lot of the people here have practiced sort of singing to themselves as they think about what is coming out of their mouth. Is it kind and true and needed? And sometimes I think people add now the tagline that Brenda uses at home sometimes, or do I need to put a sock in my mouth? Because sometimes that's what it takes in order for us to remain kind and true and needed. So I want to say that I still don't have my own church. Instead, we have our church. And I want to make it really clear that it is not, and it will not be, I can't put these down here, it will not be an inverted triangle the point balancing on my shoulders alone, because that is not a stable situation. What I see here, and I'm including all three congregations, if we have people from Unity here as well tonight, Wellspring and this center, what I see are a group of us creating a very stable foundation, and as we continue to do our own work and our growth and our evolution, that foundation is what upholds bringing New Thought into this larger community from whatever place that we are in at that time. And like Reverend Sam's reading, I want to read from Ernest Holmes, and it's a similar message. So we're on the same page still, Sam. Continually, there we go. I'm like, what is that first word? Continually, we must expect new revelations of old truths. We should never lose sight of the fact that the soul is on a pathway of an endless and ever-expanding experience, and that only by expansion can it evolve. This does not mean that we should cast away any good the old has to offer, but that we convert it into greater good, accepting the lessons and the experiences of the past and taking the best from everything. We should press boldly forward, looking ever for the truth and ever ascending higher and higher into the heavens of reality. And I believe that that's what we're doing here as a community, as a New Thought community. And I believe that we do that through a spirit-guided collaborative connection. Now that phrase came to me and I love it. It just came through. Spirit-guided collaborative connection. That's what we all have here. We have many different facets to this strong foundation. And I believe that we bring about a greater light in Las Cruces, bringing about these teachings of New Thought through all three of our centers. And we know that relationships take many forms and can show up in many different ways. So we don't have to do it exactly the same as every other community. We can decide how our relationships are going to look between us. And as we do that, we realize that we are at choice, that we continue to create. And Cheryl already mentioned, I love the Global Heart vision that says a world that works for everyone. We get to decide what works for this community and how it is we want to express and be that light in the community. We get to just keep practicing. Recently, we had a memorial for a friend of ours, and several of you were at that memorial or know Carol Dearborn. And I was asked to read some scripture. And so what popped out at me was Corinthians 12. And it was one of my favorite scriptures back in the day when I was steeped in the Bible. And in that scripture, Paul is talking to the Corinthians about their different roles. And he's saying, we are all like one body. And so the eyes can't say to the foot, we don't need you. The feet can't say to the hands, we don't need you. And so essentially what we're seeing is that each role, each aspect of us has a very important part of that whole body. And what I know is that we want to be and are a healthy, fit, well-functioning whole body with all of our diverse parts. We have a very unique situation here. We have a very unique opportunity here. And as a community, we are powerful and empowered expressions of God. Do you agree? Yes. We have people that are drawn here to these teachings and to this philosophy from El Paso, from Alamogordo, from Deming, from Hatch. They come from all over, Albuquerque, and then we have the snowbirds that come through from different parts of the country. And so we draw to us an amazing amount of people from an amazing array of areas. And yet this teaching and this philosophy are merely just words in a book that were printed several years ago by our founder, Ernest Holmes, unless we do something with them in our lives, unless we make them real and get them out there into the community. And so I know that that's what we are here for. We keep that spirit alive. We keep that philosophy alive. We keep Ernest Holmes' teaching, Emma Curtis Hopkins' teachings, the Fillmore's teachings. We keep them all alive through applying them in our lives and how it is we embody them. Essentially, as I know you've heard it said, we are the love that we want to see in the world. And I believe that that love can move mountains. Now, I'm not talking about moving the Oregon mountains if we sit here and love each other good enough. I'm talking about those mountains that have been mountains of stuff that have been created in our own hearts or between us and other people. Love will move those mountains. Now, I hope you all have noticed how many times I have said we. We. This is not I. I believe that we have a collective vision and we hold a collective vision. And I see us loving each other enough to move those mountains of stuff. Nancy Ritchie sings a song, and I believe it's a congregational song at Wellspring, Love Binds Us All. It's a beautiful song, and I think that's the truth of our being, that love binds us all. Now, I can and I will continue to do my personal practice on my own. And in that personal practice, I will continue to see how it is Spirit can move in and through my life. And I will hold in that personal practice how Spirit is moving in all of your lives. But that is the place where the I ends and the we begins. Because once that personal practice time is over, the we is how it's manifested. All of us together here as a community. So, I have heard and I accept the collective commitment that all of you have made to this process this evening. And I know maybe for some of you who are very dedicated to other areas than this center today, it might have been hard, but we tried to keep the wording such that it was open to the community and not just to this center. So I have heard the collective commitment to this process and seen how this evening was created as a group effort between communities, and that is just a template for where we can go from here, how we can continue to move forward as a larger New Thought community. So as individuals, do you feel enough love in your own heart alone to move mountains? Yes? Now look around. How does it feel to consider the love that's in this room? Do you feel enough love in this room to move those mountains? Yes. Good, 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 good. Wellspring has a benediction that they say at the end together, and the first line is, Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. That line got me through my mother's passing, and it got me through a lot of days since then, when all I could do is stand in my kitchen and say, Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. And I had to just hold on to that faith. And as we think about where we're going forward, will you join me in saying that sentence? Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. And so it is. And so I just want you to know that it is my deep, deep pleasure. I can't even give you the words for how tonight is impacting me. I do love every single one of you in this room. I know each one of your faces. And so I totally and completely accept how Spirit has asked through you that I step into this role as the community spiritual leader for the Center for Spiritual Living here in the heart of Las Cruces, where we are the heart of Las Cruces. Thank you so much.
Reverend Bonnie Smith.